Y'all know the song, right, from The Wizard of Oz? Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Isn't that a great song? The story of a young girl who is unhappy at home and thinks there's a whole lot more in the world and living on the farm and taking care of the pigs and all the things that her aunts and her uncle force her to do, and it's just terrible. And then there's the mean old wicked neighbor lady who wants to get rid of her dog, Toto. And life could not be worse. I mean, that's about as bad as it gets, right? And this is her dream. Oh, let me get out of here. Somewhere over the rainbow, there's got to be a place that everything is great. And all my dreams can come true. And so we go through the movie watching her adventures in Oz, in this land over the rainbow. And we wonder, what about the rest of us who don't get to go over the rainbow? We're stuck with living here under the rainbow. We're stuck with living here on earth in God's reality and having to feed the pigs and having to put up with people that we don't agree with and having to do the things that those in authority over us tell us to do. And we have to live here under that rainbow. And how do we do it? How do we do that? I think it's really great that at the end of Dorothy's adventure, she wakes up and she discovers what? There's no place like home. There's no place like home. But what happened? She had to experience another place and another situation in order to come to the realization that, hey, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. And how many of us have experienced that same thing? I think it's amazing. I know when I was in high school, one of the things that everyone looked forward to upon graduation was moving away from Marysville, Kansas. You know? It was a town of about, 3,000 to 4,000 at that time, I think, and a county seat town. And the best thing to do on a Friday night was to drag mail. You know what that is? And we all wanted to get away, and most of us did. And it's interesting now, many years later, that there are so many of my classmates who have moved back. And they think it's a wonderful place. And it's that same place that they wanted to get away from. Yeah, that happens. And what makes the difference? I think part of what makes the difference is we learn what's important in life. And we learn what our priorities are. And we learn how to live in the world so that it's not so much the place we live or what we live with in terms of material goods, but it's our attitude about wherever we live that makes the big difference. And part of what affects that attitude is what we're going to talk about today. It is, how do we live under the rainbow? And it has to do with this promise, this covenant with God that says, never again will waters come and flood the earth and take away everything, all of life. Never again will that happen, because I'm promising that I will be with you, and I will watch over you, and I will be your God, and you will be my people, and we will enjoy life. And when it gets to that rough point in life, when we think that we don't have any options or anything good going on, then we will be able to think of the rainbow and remember. There are so many good songs about rainbows. In fact, Kermit sings, "Why are there so many songs that are about rainbows? And what's on the other side?" Well, rainbows are a constant reminder from God that we have a promise to never be alone. That's important for us to remember. That's important for us to remember that we have a relationship with God that doesn't wait until we get to heaven. It starts right now. No, it started way back then. And the passage from Psalm says, "You were with me. You were with me from of old, and I will stay. Teach me your ways." This is the passage of the scripture that I used for my ordination, the 25th Psalm. The psalm of saying, "God, teach me your ways. Forgive me for the ways of my youth. Don't remember them. But lead me so that I will be able to walk in your path and know what your path is instead of my own or someone else's." And the psalmist knew all about that desire to make things better. That's one of the things I really like about the Psalms and the psalmist. They're real. They're real. I mean, when the psalmist is upset, you know it. He yells at God, "Why have you forsaken me? Why have you let all my enemies take over? Why have you kept me from food and drink? And why have you put me in this place?" It sounds a lot like Dorothy, doesn't it? In The Wizard of Oz. And yet, when the psalmist comes to the point of understanding what God is doing, what does he say? In the same way, the psalmist says, "Thank you for being with me. Thank you for taking me out of the trouble. Thank you for leading me into better places." The psalmist expresses what the psalmist feels and experiences inside. You see, that's where our feelings are. And that's where our inner thoughts are. And that's what we're called to do during Lent, is to look inside and spend time with the feelings and the thoughts that we hold inside and we never want anybody else to know. And we all have that list of things that we're afraid that if anybody knew this thought, or if anyone knew I did this, they wouldn't love me anymore. And it's those things to start looking at and saying, you know, I'm going to take these to God. And I'm going to talk to God about it. I'm not going to just give them to God and go on. I'm going to take these things to God and I'm going to talk about it. Because that's what relationships are all about. Talking about the things that are going on in here. And the things that are going on in here that we really don't feel comfortable sharing with other people. And that's why we have Lent. To start looking at those things that trouble us and interfere with our lives on a daily basis and keep us from being comfortable with our lives on a daily basis by being tagged unacceptable, embarrassing, wrong, and all those other tags that we can put on our own feelings. And when we take those and we let them out of that safe in our minds that's guarded by 3 dogs, 4 horses, 2 cows, and a pig, then we can move all that hogwash out of the way going to judge us by what we say and what we share and what we feel. We have a God who's going to listen. Who's going to listen and say, I understand why you feel that way. I don't want you to stay there, but I understand why you feel that way. And let's talk about that some more, so maybe we can work on moving past that. And I love you now, and I will love you as we go through this, and I will love you wherever you end up at the end of this time. God says, I'm not going to control it. I'm not going to force you into anything, but I welcome you to bring up these inner thoughts, these inner desires, these troubles, and I welcome them, and I will walk through them with you, and wherever they lead you, I will be there. I will be there, no matter what. And if once we get there, and you decide, oh, this isn't the place I want to be either, then God says, I'll keep walking with you. And we will keep looking in another direction till we find the place that you feel comfortable. And I will love you there. We don't have to come to the right place in our relationship with God, because there is no right place when we're talking about God. Life is a journey. Life is constantly changing. God is constantly speaking, and God is constantly listening, and God is constantly guiding, and God is constantly calling, and we are the ones who look inside and say, today I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to follow as best I can, listen as best I can, and go in the direction I think God is wanting me to go. And when I get to that place and that direction, I don't have to worry about if it's the right place or the right direction. I know that it is a direction that God is helping me to find. And as we continue to have those conversations with God, God will eventually lead us, and we will eventually hear and get it figured out. But in the meantime, we can look to the sky and we can see the rainbow and remember that God has said life will not be wiped out again, not en masse and not individually. The spirit life with you and me will not be wiped out, because I am with you, and I promise to journey with you all the way through. But like Dorothy, she found out that the best place to be is home. There's no place like home. Now, I don't have any immediate family still living in my hometown. Mom and Dad didn't live in the house I grew up in the last 20 years of their lives. And so when I think of home, I don't think of Marysville, Kansas so much, because I know that home is where my family is, and my heart is, and my desires are. Home is being in a place that welcomes me no matter who I am or what I am when I walk in the door. And home is where I get nourished and reaffirmed and ready to go out into the world again. Nothing wrong with Marysville, Kansas. I love it, and I hope to get back there one of these days to see some friends. But my home is not tied to a house or a town. My home is tied to my heart. And wherever I feel comfortable with God, and that I feel God is with me, then I'm home. And that's what it's like to live under the rainbow and not spend our time dreaming what